This is the first Marvel Studios special presentation. How did the idea for this type of program come about?
At Marvel Studios, we're big fans of network TV specials from back in the day, and they can range, we're a half hour to an hour special thing that would come on television. Maybe it was a special time each week, maybe a special time each year. And we had noticed that we hadn't seen too many recently. So when we were thinking of the very first Marvel Studios special presentation, we wanted to create that same sense of fun and maybe excitement around something that was unique and unexpected. So we decided that what we were going to look at Werewolf by Night as one of the characters that we had long wanted to put somewhere in the MCU, but hadn't figured out the right spot, and the opportunity to dip in for a shorter presentation that would allow us to introduce this character, see the world from his perspective, and maybe uncover a new part of the MCU, felt like just the right thing to kick off our first special presentation. Michael Giacchino has been a longtime collaborator with Marvel Studios, composing many of our wonderful and memorable scores. And he had approached us because he was interested in directing. And we said, Michael, you're great. Let's do it. And so one of the things that we had talked to him about was, okay, when we're directing, what kind of aspect or qualities do you want to bring to it? And Michael's knowledge of film, TV, video games, and all these mediums that he's worked in was only enhanced by his musical genius. So Michael would frequently come in and bring in samples of music of this is how we want the scene to feel, and this is what we want to achieve. And it works so well because music is a universal language and very emotional, and it's very easy to get the entire cast and crew on board when you hear a piece of music and you understand what type of emotion we're going for in a scene. Michael has been a consummate collaborator, and I've enjoyed every minute working with him. And I can't wait to figure out a way to see where these characters might go next and what sort of ideas Michael has for them.
Werewolf by Night explores a different corner of the MCU. Can you talk about that and why is it exciting to you?
The MCU is populated with superheroes, aliens, alternate dimensions, space travel, all these wonderful, fantastical concepts. But we've thought to ourselves, there must be another corner of the MCU that we have yet to explore. And this special, Werewolf by Night, allows us to take a look in sort of the shadows and the darker areas. You start to learn about the secret cabal of monster hunters, and they've been doing this, or their brethren, for centuries. Monsters have always existed, but now, for whatever reason, they're just coming out to the fore. And so we took this opportunity to use the special presentation format to introduce this concept to the MCU, let people get a taste of what it's like to interact with the monsters of the MCU, and then from here, who knows where it goes.
With that said, does this mean we may see more monsters derived from the comics in the future MCU projects?
It's always exciting to introduce new characters into the MCU. And with Werewolf by Night, we've opened it up to introduce the concept that monsters may be walking and living among us. You might not be able to see them, you might be able to tell who's who, but they're out there. And so with this in mind, where these monsters will show up, we're not entirely sure. But it is known that in the MCU, it's big and vast, and suddenly monsters are here.
This has a look inspired by films of the 1930s and 1940s. Why was that style chosen for this?
When we set out to make Werewolf by Night, we started looking at movies that would have inspired us. And those included movies like The Mummy and Wolfman and The Invisible Man, which are all these great classic horror pictures from the 1930s and 1940s. And not only did we love them, but we loved the look and style and feel. So in telling a monster story, we thought it would be great to pay our respects and to sort of take some of our favorite parts about those movies and bring them up into the modern MCU. So we chose to have this screen in black and white. We put in the sort of film grain that you'd find if it was on an old piece of film that you had pulled out of someone's back archive. As you'll notice, there are reel changes on a second watch. You might even notice when the reel would flip over, when they would have to do that in an old picture house. And so all of this is our way of saying it's a love letter to these classic horror and monster movies of the 1930s and 1940s.
Tell us about the production value and the practical sets and why they are so integral to this production.
In taking inspiration from the monster movies of the 1930s and 40s, those productions often had to build everything in camera or use movie magic to give you that sense of the supernatural. So when we set out to shoot Werewolf by Night, we knew that we wanted to include more practical effects and more real life elements to build as much as we could to capture it in camera, not only to give that sense of it being real on screen, but also to allow our actors to have something tangible to play off of. And in particular, the incredible work was done by the team to create a prosthetic and practical werewolf. So when you see that werewolf and that monster shows up in the third act, that is a full-on prosthetic suit with incredible work done by our makeup artists, by our prosthetic team, by our hair group as they individually put in all the werewolf hair all over his body. And it made it so much more human to see that character show a little bit of the humanity and be able to act, but also have the physicality that comes with being a ferocious werewolf.
What can viewers expect to experience when they watch the special?
When audiences tune in on Disney Plus to watch Werewolf by Night, they should expect to see something that's a little bit scary, a little bit fun, and a little bit exciting. The tension of being thrust into a new world with dangerous characters is part of what makes the special so exciting, but also just enough where you're a little bit scared, but you're still leaning forward in your seat. So expect to have a little bit of the traditional Marvel fun, but a little bit something scarier and perhaps maybe a little ferocious than you otherwise would have expected.